And then there's the main event, Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal, a rematch 8, 9 months after their first meeting, which occurred on 7, 8 days notice. Kamaru has had the one title defense against Burns since. Masvidal hasn't fought. So I want to start with Masvidal. There's looking at how the fight went. There's a couple things I feel like he could have done better. He basically, once Usman got Masvidal behind the black line, the mini octagon within the octagon, it like Usman was just in his office. He was able to mix strikes, feints, and takedowns to get Masvidal against the cage effortlessly pretty well once Masvidal was that close to it. And from there, it was just clinch dominance of Usman holding him there, not letting him off, and staying busy enough with foot stomps and body strikes to not have the ref separate them. The other thing for Masvidal was the shot selection seemed to not help him in terms of that cage control. He'd throw like these loopy shots that Usman would be able to duck under and like put his head on a straight trajectory to close the distance in between those loopy shots. And he'd throw some kicks in the southpaw orthodox up the middle that Usman was able to catch and threaten off of. So more straight shots from Masvidal and just urgency to never let his feet get outside of that octagon that's within the octagon, because that's where Usman got to work. The takedown defense itself and the get-up ability looked pretty good for Masvidal, and I don't follow him religiously or anything, but almost all the clips I've seen of him over this past year have been him practicing his grappling defense, saying, I'm going to put an end to the crotch sniffing. And that's a lot of ways saying, like, the difference this time is I was so focused on just cutting weight and making it to championship weight and into the cage that I couldn't put all of my focus elsewhere. So you've had this almost year with the rematch on your mind. You've had around a month, maybe a little more, to get ready. You should have a game plan going in. The weight cut shouldn't be a huge distraction the way it was last fight week. So even though I don't love the way Usman won that last fight and wasn't particularly impressed by it's what has been key to Usman's success in his championship reign. His physicality and athleticism has let him dictate where the fight takes place, decide how it's going to go, and whatever he's decided, it has worked out for him. If he wants to strike with a Damian Maia, Colby Covington, Gilbert Burns, he can do that. If he wants to wrestle against Tyron Woodley, Jorge Masvidal, he can do that. Rafael dos Anjos before the title fight. None of those guys have been able to change where Usman's wanted the fight to play out, and he's won the fight in his chosen field every time. Now, the consistent thing within all those fights, or the selection of where that will take place, has been it's been the least risky place for Usman. He's chosen not to get into the guard of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts like Maia or Burns. Decided he had a striking advantage over Covington. He certainly had the physicality to implement that striking advantage. And he's decided he has a grappling advantage over guys like Woodley and Masvidal. Now, most of those fights, he's looked dominant. Like against Woodley looked like he had nothing left, nothing for him at all by the time the fight was over. Masvidal, he was tired, but he wasn't broken. And Usman, I think, admitted as much, saying, like, I don't feel like I broke him last time. And part of that is just Usman did the safest thing he could at all times. When he had Masvidal against the cage, he didn't lock his hands for a body lock or a double leg, because it would have given Masvidal a chance to get away from the cage. When he had Masvidal on the ground, he didn't ever posture up or go hunting for submissions, because it would have given Masvidal a chance to get up. He was pretty cautious on the feet, on the striking. So I'm really curious, especially coming off this Gilbert Burns knockout that he had, what he's going to do differently. I mean, he's set the stage for himself to really impress here. He has that knockout over Burns. He calls out Masvidal for the rematch. He's saying, I'm going to break this guy. So I feel like he has to do it better, and he has to accept a little more risk to do that in the striking and in the grappling. So he has to be more desperate for takedowns against the cage. He has to. I'm curious what he does in the striking, really. Does the confidence of knocking out Burns and landing those straights, those jabs from orthodox and southpaw mean he's going to do the same thing? Because I think Burns is way below Masvidal in terms of striking ability and levels, just in terms of distance management, shot selection. I know Burns hurt Usman and Masvidal didn't stagger him the same way Burns did, but that was very early in the fight, and Usman was in control basically as soon as that was 20 seconds past. So no excuses for Masvidal. This is his moment. He's asked for it. There are a lot of things he can do better. Shot selection, throw the punches more straight. Don't throw silly stuff when your back is against the cage. Don't let your back get against the cage. The calf kicks, too, could be real interesting. Coming from the same camp as Dustin Poirier. Those were not, I think, as big as a lot of people have made them out to be, but a significant part of Poirier's victory over McGregor. It doesn't take many. Masvidal has the power to certainly make a difference with them, and he looked to go to it early in that fight, kind of got away from it. So if he can keep in the middle, land a few more of those, throw more straight trajectory shots that dissuade Usman from using his usual pressure style, could be fascinating. Or Usman could raise his stock even higher, because that's one of the most impressive things to me in combat sports. When you call someone out, say you're going to do something, and then you do it. So Usman, Masvidal too. Can't wait. I'm really excited for this fight as well.